Hi, it's Rob from Rob Shadow Tech here, and today we're going to be looking at the Fairphone 4, and specifically we're going to be looking at what we can do to make this into a desktop computer. So Fairphone 4 is a great phone. Must admit, the whole idea behind what they're trying to achieve with sustainability, etc., I think that's extremely progressive, and there's no other phone on the market that's doing that at the moment. So that's really got to be They've really got to be celebrated for that. On top of that, 5-year warranty, 5 years of security updates, and if any part of the phone breaks, you can replace it. So you can replace key components like the USB-C connector, the camera, etc. And potentially, if they release upgraded components that are backwards compatible, you could actually upgrade bits of your phone. So you could actually add an improved camera, or you could perhaps add a slightly improved battery if they increase the capacity, etc. Another great thing about this is the removable battery. So this whole plastic panel at the back just comes off, and that's fantastic. It means you can take the battery out, you can replace the battery, you're not going to have to take it to a shop to do that. Really, really great. Have to celebrate them for that. Anyway, what we're here to do today is to look at what we can do to make this more functional. So according to the specs, the Fairphone 4 only has USB 3. However, what I found when I plugged it into a dock, and we've got a Targus desktop dock here. So in a moment we'll see what happens. We can see that it actually displays, it mirrors to the screen. So this was unexpected because according to the specs, it's only USB 3. But here we are, we've got it mirrored to the screen. So that got me thinking, okay, so what this means we can potentially do other things. And what I'm going to do today is to show you how to enable desktop mode using developer options. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to enable the desktop mode in Android. So what you're going to need to do is go into developer options. So to do that, go to settings, about phone, find where it says build number, which is at the bottom, and tap on it. Put in your PIN. And once you put in the PIN, you're now a developer. So to get into developer options, go into system, advanced, developer options. Now scroll down. If you scroll down, you'll eventually get to something that says desktop mode. So let's keep scrolling, keep scrolling, keep scrolling, keep scrolling, keep scrolling, keep scrolling, keep scrolling. There we go. So the things I'm going to enable are force activities to be resizable, enable freeform windows, force desktop mode, and also enable freeform size compact. So what this should do is that this should give you the best options. You can play around with these once you've done it. But once you've done that, just go back. Now the other thing to do is to download a product called Taskbar from the Google Play Store. I've already done that, and I'll show you why. So Taskbar basically gives you like a desktop interface. And a taskbar at the bottom, similar to what you'd get in Windows or Mac OS, or in the other Android desktop modes such as Samsung DeX or Motorola Ready For. And in here you can do some various things. So you can set freeform mode, or you can set, launch games full screen, always open apps in new windows, always save apps default size. You can change as well. Desktop mode, just enable it, primary launcher. Now, one of the things it will have is something called a custom display density. Now, if you tap on it, enable the additional settings, it will show you what you need to put in order to enable some of these additional options. So, connect your phone to your PC, where you've got the ADB shell. That can be downloaded from Google, or you can download portions of it. If you want to, for example, mirror your screen onto PC, there's a product called Screen Copy, SCRCPY. If you download that, that comes with ADB as well. So that's a nice quick way of getting ADB. Anyway, once you've got ADB, run it up in a command or yeah, Windows command prompt. Type ADB devices with it connected. You'll need to enable the debug mode within your developer options. So if you go to System again, Advanced, Developer Options, if you scroll down, you've got a USB debugging. Enable that, and once you've done that, as soon as you plug it into a phone, into a PC, and you issue the ADB command, you'll be prompted to trust it on this device. Once you've done that, then you'll be able to issue that command. Anyway, I'll show you what that command does a bit later on. So anyway, we've enabled the desktop mode. So what I'm going to do now is just restart the phone. Sometimes you have to do this, sometimes you don't. So we'll just restart that. Right, so we're back up and running. And once we've done that, we can try docking it again. So let's plug it into the dock and see what happens. And there we are. We have desktop mode. And notice we've got the taskbar at the bottom here. So this gives us a window where we can have our apps. We can access our apps. So again, similar to the start menu that you'd get with other desktop mode enabled solutions like DeX, etc., like that. And this is all running from the phone. So as you will have seen, as soon as you plug that in, we got this desktop mode. So once we've got that, we can do various things with it. We can run apps. We can access things like Word, Excel, Outlook, etc. But what we can also do is we can access remote desktops. And this is a great use case for this, because what we can do is this enables us to use our Fairphone 4 together with an existing keyboard, monitor and mouse. So this is an existing monitor, this is an existing keyboard with an integrated touchpad, but could be a separate mouse. All we've supplied, all we've added is this dock. And there are lots of docks on the market. So this is one that's like a phone stand. There are other ones like this one, which is a Targus one, a little bit cheaper. Basically similar sort of idea. You just plug your peripherals, etc., into here, your power. You've got an Ethernet port on this. This has got an Ethernet port, so note we're actually connected over a wired connection. Your HDMI goes in there. It's also got mini display ports, so you could use a display port output as well. You can only support one display at a time, or you can mirror displays. You can't actually span displays at the moment. That's a limitation of most desktop modes, including Samsung DeX and Motorola Ready For. Although there are some ways around that, and we have got some separate videos that show how you can use something like VMware Horizon with two external monitors, but it's specific to the way that particular product works, and some additional peripherals that we've added. Again, there's no Windows there's no separate PC. All we've done is we've added a little bit of extra hardware. There's only a few tens of pounds to that additional monitor. And if the phone locks, you just get the time up like that. So just use the fingerprint to unlock it. So let's show you an example of something working. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you Windows 365. And there we are. So as you may be aware, Windows 365 now supports Windows 11. So this is Windows 11 running via a RDP session. This is where this Windows 365 PC is hosted. Let's see if it does it now. I'll change the regional settings, so it should hopefully be back to... No, it still thinks it's in the Netherlands. Marvellous. Let's do Google. that won't be in Dutch. Oh, yes it is. Marvellous. So let's change it and change it to English. English UK. There we go. Right, hopefully we've done that. Hopefully now we've done that. Now we're in English. There you go. Full Windows desktop. So all from your Fairphone 4.5G. So applications for this, well, if you are looking to replace a load of your existing desktop PCs, there's a significant carbon cost to doing so, not only in the production, the logistics, stroke shipping, the bulky items, so you can't actually get many in a container compared to smartphones. So there's a carbon cost there, and then there's in use as well. So this smartphone typically will be should be using around about 6 watts. There's a charger, a 10-watt charger there as well, but it's being charged, so it's probably using about 10 watts, including the USB-C dock, maybe slightly more, maximum 12, I would imagine. So compare that to a PC. So a PC anywhere between 180 and 250 watts, excluding the monitor. It's a massive reduction, and of course every watt of electricity you use generates carbon, because most power that's generated is not fully green. So I think in the UK, where I'm based, the UK government calculate that each kilowatt hour, so that would be 4 hours of a PC running. So a whole day would potentially use up 2 kilowatt hours, is equivalent to 0.233 kilograms of carbon. So you're talking about nearly half a kilo of carbon per day with a desktop PC. If you spread that over 250 working days a year, you're talking about nearly 125 kilograms of carbon produced just by running the PC. That doesn't include the monitor, and the reason I say that is because you still need a monitor for this. This, on the other hand, is using 12 watts, so there's a massive reduction. 12 watts as a percentage of 250, it's a fraction. A tenth of 250 is 25. It's less than 5% of the power of a PC being used to deliver this. Okay, you've got a cloud PC now, but because cloud PCs basically are running multiple PCs on a single server or set of servers, it means that you can get a lot more out of one machine compared to one machine on your desk or under your desk. So you're basically splitting the carbon footprint of that server, both its production cost, its shipping cost, and its in-life cost. You're spreading that across multiple Windows 365 instances, so it's a lot greener. And some services, if you look at the likes of UK Fast, they're completely carbon neutral. So they use sustainably generated electricity. They offset their carbon through other means, etc. So and we do that ourselves. We have a regular contribution to Plant One, Cornwall. Cornwall's where I grew up, so I love the county, and I wanted to return something to it. So we're planting trees every month through Plant One Cornwall, and that offsets our carbon a little bit. But actually, what we're doing here is we're also promoting the use of sustainable phones. The Fairphone 4 5G being the latest and probably the most sustainable phone available. We're promoting the use of those to replace traditional computing endpoints. And whilst Samsung and Motorola are doing that, they don't have the sustainability story that Fairphone do. So I think this is a really exciting potential way of going green. Use your smartphone, you carry it around with you. And the other thing to bear in mind is that when your PC is running, even though it may not be in use by yourself, it's still running under the desk. Not all of them switch off automatically. If you're an organisation that needs to patch them or manage them, a lot of them are left running throughout the day, and in some cases they're left running 24 hours, that PC is still consuming energy. It may not be doing as processor intensive tasks, but it is still consuming energy. And if you're deploying patches and system updates, etc., or running antivirus scans, that can be quite taxing on the processor, and that could be consuming more power than if it was just left idle. So even during those periods when it is idle, because of the way that Windows schedules its background tasks and looks for other activity that, say, a user would be doing, it will actually perform sort of system management functions during that time. So it's not completely idle, and therefore the energy usage is not particularly low. It won't necessarily be as high as when it's fully in full use, but you might be looking at 50, 60 watts sometimes. So you have to factor that in as well. As I say, this smartphone, together with the USB-C dock and the charger, is probably 12, no more than 15 watts. And that's a massive reduction compared to a PC. And even a laptop. Laptops typically, even though modern laptops are more energy efficient, 50, 60, 70, even 100 watts or more if you've got a dedicated GPU, for example, you'd be using a lot more power into the hundreds. The power brick will be 220 to 250 watts on those heavy duty laptops. But if you go to the likes of UK Fast, you can actually get a hosted desktop that has a GPU dedicated to it, or a portion of a GPU dedicated to it. So some of those functions you can perform even with a hosted cloud desktop. So you can use things like GPU in terms of CAD and things like that. You can use those using these products. So again, potentially you could still use your smartphone for that, because it's actually what's happening at the desktop end that is taking all the processing, not what all your smartphone is the thin client. But don't forget, your smartphone can also run applications itself. It's not just a thin client. If you've got Microsoft 365, which most or a lot of organisations have, or you've got Google Workspaces, then you can leverage those as well. You can use the mobile apps on the phone. You can use those mobile apps on the device. So you can fire up Word. You have access to all those applications. So here are some examples of using web apps. So some of the mobile apps work really well, some of them don't work quite so well. What we can do, and I've got Office 365 here, is we can actually run up the Office web apps. So for example, here we have Word. Now as you can see, within the browser you get quite a great deal of functionality, not dissimilar to what you actually have in the full-blown app. So you do get lots and lots of decent functionality. You can indent, you can change styles, you can set it as a heading, title, etc., create style. So you don't actually need your desktop version of Word to be productive. And of course, the other benefit of this is it's saving it all the time. Because it's in the cloud, it's constantly saving it. So if your smartphone was to shut down, it wouldn't matter. The document would be saved. If you're editing a document locally on your PC and you haven't got the autosave function enabled, then you could lose quite a lot of work if the machine, for example, decides it needs to update urgently and it goes into an update cycle. The other thing you can do, you can go to Teams, so you can collaborate. You can actually collaborate. You can have Teams notifications turned on, so you get messages popping up. You can access all your OneDrive files, Windows 365 we saw earlier. You can bring up your Outlook as well. So all within a browser to be more productive. You've still got the applications running on your phone, so you can still have Outlook on your phone. So your phone is still receiving emails, but if you want to respond to them and insert things like images, etc., it's a lot easier to do that in the desktop view than it is on the mobile view. Obviously, you can do it on the mobile view. If you need to do it quickly, you can, and that's the great benefit of having your phone out and about. And what I haven't shown you is, once you've done this, you can also do this on what's called a laptop. Now, a laptop is a portable display that you plug in. It's in a laptop chassis, so it has a keyboard and touchpad, etc. So in a moment, I'll show you a laptop and the experience you get there. So here's the same setup using what's called a lap dock. Now a lap dock, you have a USB-C cable that goes from the bottom of the smartphone into the side. I've just used this phone stand. I find that useful because it means if I've got any applications running on the phone, I can see those. If I need to do a video call, I can do those. These don't have a camera built into them. You can now plug in external cameras, so you have a couple of ports on the side here, and I will show that with WebEx in a moment. So not all systems support a camera. Things like Teams doesn't currently support the external camera, but WebEx has just introduced that function, so I'll show you that in a moment. So what we have is we have a laptop chassis. This is just a touchscreen display, so touchscreen display, got a UK keyboard. You can get them in different keyboard formats, American, etc. It's got a built-in battery. Battery runs for between 4-5 hours. There's an option to switch off charging, so that gives it a bit more charge, maybe 5.5 hours when it's not charging the phone. It does depend on how bright the screen is. So if I knock the brightness down a little bit, it's set quite bright at the moment. In fact, you can do it. You can do it this way as well. So we knock down the brightness. That might be better actually to see on the as well. So 40% bright is still bright enough to work with. I've got background light here as well, and there we are. Same sort of experience as we have on similar experiences we have. We are using 4G at this point, so we're not using we're not actually using the Wi-Fi, etc. So we'll just let that reload. And there we go. Same ribbon at the top as we had previously, so we can do those sorts of things. And again, Windows 365 also works as well. So if we want to, we can fire up the Cloud PC. So I can actually open this in the browser. I should be able to. Just give that a minute. And there we are. It's the same desktop as we had earlier. This one's running in a browser, so fidelity might not be quite as good as it was on the native client, but as you can see, still able to access things. And here we are. We have our Cloud PC. We're running over 4G, so obviously we're going to get Dutch language coming up on there, but that's more to do with Windows 365 than anything else. But yeah, we've got all our applications there available to us, and you can see what files we've got on that. So not dissimilar for having a proper Windows PC laptop, but actually we're using a smartphone to drive it, and we're using a laptop. So again, from a carbon perspective, this is only using about 12 watts or so of power, based on the size of the battery. The charger that comes with it is 18 watts. It charges up to full charge in about an hour, but the battery rundown is over a much longer period of time, so power usage is much lower. Smartphone, again, it's using no more than 6 watts, so combined we're looking at perhaps 16 watts, something like that, maybe less. That still compares favourably to a laptop that's using anything from 50 to 100 watts. So again, we could be looking at least a quarter of the power usage, if not more. And again, these are less sophisticated or complicated. They are essentially a screen, battery, keyboard, touchpad, and a USB-C dock together with some electronics to drive the display. You haven't got a CPU, you haven't got RAM, you haven't got SSD, you haven't got copper cooling systems in there, you haven't got all the additional paraphernalia that a laptop needs to create or to drive its USB-C ports and everything else, and charging ports and HDMI ports and all the other stuff. You just don't have that. It's a much simpler solution that uses your smartphone's brains, the CPU and the RAM and the storage in your smartphone to do the work, as opposed to using a powerful processor which is going to be underutilized. And again, the same benefits around cloud PC. You know, a cloud PC is running in the cloud. It's shared. It's a shared PC across a server, so that's hosting multiple instances. So you're getting economies of scale in terms of power consumption, efficiency, etc. So it's still lower carbon than using a dedicated PC. And if you go opt with a service like UK Fastdesk, they're carbon neutral. So actually, it's a win-win situation altogether. And I hope this was useful. Where you can do some more videos on the Fairphone 4 5G. I've got some other stuff that I can do with it, so I can show Xbox Game Pass, for example, so you can actually turn your Fairphone 4 5G into a gaming console.